been a while. So today's video I am going to be reading you an English story. قصة بالإنجليزية بناء على طلب subscriber. Okay, let's get started. The Three Doves. What is that? What is that doof noise? A cat? A mouse? A visitor in the house? No, it's something even further than a cat, even cuter than a mouse, and much thinner than you and me. It's the Three Doves. These sweet creatures have only one foot each to hop on, and each hop makes a thumping doof on the floor. Here is Sully Dove, the smart one, who is always thinking long and loud. He reads daytime stories to the other doves because, unlike you and me, that is when they sleep. Stinky Sully Dove prefers reading over bathing anytime. And here is Sally Dove, the smallest and sweetest dove of the three. In a little quiet voice, she sings doobie doof songs when it gets a bit too quiet in the night. She likes finding shiny things and cuddles hungry Sully Dove, who loves to sing. Don't forget Silly Dove, the funniest dove in the house. He is always joking. Wiggly giggly Silly Dove will make you laugh until your tummy hurts. He cheers up the other doves whenever they feel sad. He loves to dance on his big silly foot to the songs that Silly Dove sings. So, if at night you ever hear a strange doof noise again, remember, it's just the three doves reading, singing, and dancing on their one doof foot. So, sleep well, little one, or keep one eye open, because maybe, just maybe, you'll see three cute little creatures hopping past on one foot, going doof doof. القصة الثانية. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the roof of a very big fire tree. Now, my dears, said old Mr. Rabbit, one morning you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. Mac Roger's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mr. Mac Rogers. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. Mac Roger's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuce and some French beans, and then he ate some radish. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. Mac Roger? Mr. Mac Roger was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgetting the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have got away, if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with braces, buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheaded by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great way and embraced him to exert himself. Mr. McRoger came up with a scythe, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and trashed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in, if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McRoger was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hiding underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McRoger was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. Mac Roger, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wonder about going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McRoger filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin. He went back towards the tool shed, but sadly, quite close to him, he heard the nose of a hoe scratch, scratch, scratch. Peter scattered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrows and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McRoger hopping onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheel and started running as fast as he could go along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McRoger caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fire tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made him some tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter, 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Moopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. Well, this is the end of the story. Hope you guys enjoy it and love it as much as I do. Have a good night. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.